What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Facemask Fantasy off-season version. Um, Probably not going to have the crowds that we usually have during the actual fantasy season when people are actually trying to manage their team, make the right moves, look at their matchups, all that good stuff. Not the same right now, right? But that's okay. There's still plenty to talk about because if you're invested in fantasy, there's a good chance you're still invested in the NFL playoffs, and you can still play. You can still play um, a variety of fantasy related matchups or uh, matches, excuse me, during the NFL playoffs. So there's plenty of things to talk about. I realize now I can't do a screen share on YouTube, but what I can do is I'll put some playoff teams together, and I can put that behind a video um, for the channel. You guys can look at a variety of different strategies. Um, if you play best ball, it's an idea for DFS potentially. But most of my contests are going to be best ball related on Underdog. So what I can do is I'll record some videos of some teams that I draft and some thought, my thought process as it plays out real time. And that could be a bit of a that could be something to look at or consider if you're doing them yourself, and we can compare teams. Um, but aside from that, there's a lot of there's matchups to get through, things to talk about on each side, and as it pertains to fantasy, depending on what you guys are doing or what you guys are playing, there's lots of storylines to get through. So I'll timestamp this video. Not 100% sure how long I'll go, but we'll cover in some capacity each NFL playoff matchup as it pertains to fantasy. And that is the plan for today. What's going on, Iron? Good to see you, man. Did you get the win in the Zombie League? I'm just now realizing I never actually looked at that. Let me right now. Yeah, it looks like by the as a result of the no contest. As a result of the no contest, yeah. So there you go. Nicely done. Congratulations on that. Congrats on winning the Zombie League. That'll expand to more than eight teams this year. There's no doubt. We'll do more than 8 teams. We'll do more than 8 teams this year in the Zombie League. But yeah, we have playoff matchups to get through. Higgins left and Knox. Okay, yeah. I mean, I kind of just we ended up not really doing anything in the Zombie League. I guess admittedly, that one kind of fell by the wayside as I was working my way through my money leagues and sorting out everything that happened as a result of the Week 17 game. So we'll just we'll play it as it lies in there in the Zombie League. We'll call it a no contest, or we'll call back. We'll honor Bengals Bills no contest and just play it as it lies. So Iron takes home the Zombie League crown. So congrats, man. That's pretty cool. But for the NFL playoffs, the first game between the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. So just again from a fantasy perspective, at least on Underdog Fantasy, if you are doing playoff drafts, like draft contests, McCaffrey is the second or third pick off of the board. His ADP is now 2.5. 2.5 is McCaffrey's. Allen is the top pick. So the way Underdog does it is you draft 10 players. You start one quarterback, one running back, a combination of either two wide receiver. It's two positions that are wide receiver, tight end. So you can start two receivers, you can start a receiver and a tight end, you can start two tight ends. There's two of those spots, and then there's a flex spot, a regular flex spot, not quarterback. So running back, wide receiver, tight end. And then it's 10 spots, so I guess that makes five bench spots, right? Um, in these contests, McCaffrey goes second or third overall. Um, and second probably makes more sense in these because if you draft Mahomes, you are your first player. It's a great pick if you successfully move on and advance. But if you take Mahomes, you need to draft another quarterback that's going to play wild card weekend, and you are um, spending your highest draft capital on a guy you won't have the first week of the season or the first week of the playoffs. So you got to be careful there. But McCaffrey gets a 49er or a Seahawks run defense that um, a beatable, like the one that he handled um, in the one matchup against the Seahawks that he had this season. Um, I know he went over 100 yards and a touchdown in that game. I think that was a Thursday night game in Seattle. That was week 15. Christian McCaffrey faced the Seahawks uh, on the road on a short week and handled them. He was CMC. Now he gets them at home in a game where the 49ers are heavily favored. Kind of difficult to see a scenario where Seattle wins this one. Um, it's just there's a top to bottom talent discrepancy between these two teams. So McCaffrey looks like a strong bet. So in these playoff contests that I do on Underdog, you're drafting guys based on, kind of how far they go, right? Not necessarily how. It's not just how good you think they are. It's a combination of that, and are they players on teams where you expect them to make a deep playoff run? So Eagles and Chiefs players are obviously locked into the second week, but you're getting zeros from them this week. So roster construction is important. That's an interesting challenge, Iron. You can pick, so anybody can pick. You can pick anybody. You have your choice of players. I mean, I would probably stack. You're stacking some combination of Bills, Bengals, Chiefs, and then it's either, people are going to stack either the Eagles or the 49ers. You know? So you have, you're not going to have a situation where you have to worry about players in the first round in this specific contest. But in the ones that I do, you have to account for that. Because if you don't, then, you're not going to score any points the first week. You're going to be eliminated. So McCaffrey goes, second overall, makes the most sense, and he's set up well to put up big numbers against Seattle. Deebo Samuel is back in the lineup as well, and Brock Purdy again is 5-0 and play. Wins aren't a quarterback stat. The 49ers are just playing great right now as a team. I mean, they're firing on all cylinders. Purdy has looked very good. Let's see how he does in the playoffs. But you can probably comfortably, safely expect Seattle to handle their business, or excuse me, San Francisco to handle their business against Seattle in this first game. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, I guess more so Metcalf, are definitely good DFS plays if you stack. If you stack like McCaffrey and Purdy, and then maybe you grab one of either Kittle or or Debo. Metcalf will be a good kickback. Now this would probably just be for the single, maybe just that single day, maybe just if you do a contest for just wild card Saturday. Um, you'll want that combination if you expect the game script to play out, I think, as most people do, which is for the 49ers to take a lead, hang on to it, and the Seahawks are playing catch up by throwing the ball there for Metcalf and Lockett are um, decent counters, adds to the lineup if you stack 49ers. So I don't. So like I don't like Kenneth Walker this week. He's going to be low. He's probably not going to be very highly owned, and he should get volume. It's just about as brutal a matchup as it gets, though. That's the biggest issue here. But Walker won't be highly owned, so at least in DFS, so you can take that chance. But he might come off the field in the second half on when if in the situation where Seattle's passing the ball, throwing the ball. Yeah, and with these contests, Iron, like with the ones that you do, it's regardless of which one, it is smart, generally speaking, to do several entries and stack them with guys from the same couple of teams. Like you kind of want to target a bunch of guys on one team in these types of contests and just try to go all in on the offense. One, scoring enough, and two, advancing each week keeps your entry. Those are the entries that are most likely to do damage. Now you have to hit on the right teams, but those are the entries that are going to do the most damage. Are the teams, players on the same team that are advancing. You have that. If you have the quarterback and the wide receivers, if you have the whole offense, or if you have 60-70% of the offense, 60 to 75% of the offense in your lineup, um, and they're the team that is advancing and playing well, those are the entries that are going to do damage. So, like in the contest that I do, you have to be careful with. You can't get too caught up in ADP, right? It's more about, all right, did I end up with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow with my first two picks? Now I probably have to, not have to, but I want to go out of my way to get if, even if I miss on Mixon or Higgins, I want to go out of my way to make sure I get Tyler Boyd, um, or Hayden Hurst. Just go all in on the offense as best you can. Teams that you expect to go far. The Chiefs and Eagles already have, obviously, a front row seat to the divisional round, so their odds are better. But it, it's the obvious choices, right? The Bills, the Bengals, the 49ers. I would be careful about the Vikings. I know they're the 3 seed, but they were pretty fortunate to win the amount of one-score games that they did this year. That is not a sustainable trend. The Giants played them well earlier in the season, and now they get a second crack at them. And even if they win, they have to go on the road to San Francisco, which is a much more complete team. So the team with the highest seed that I would caution against the most would be the Vikings. Like, yes, at some point you just kind of you're hoping for, even if it's just one game, that Justin Jefferson can do, can have a bona fide clear cut wide receiver 1 week. But I would be really careful about the rest of that offense. Um, I'm not sure that the Vikings don't get upset by the Giants this week. And I know that's kind of trendy, I feel like, at this point, but I'm kind of on board with it. If I had to pick one upset, it's the Giants beating the Vikings. I don't see us really and we've seen upsets happen every year. We see big upsets happen every season. Um, but the thought process and the feelings remain the same any given year going into the matchups themselves. I don't really see an avenue where Seattle can beat San Francisco. I don't really see a scenario where there's no scenario where the Dolphins beat the Bills. I'm sorry, Dolphins fans. Like, we're down to Skylar Thompson again in Orchard Park against Josh Allen in a must-win game. Yeah, and then again, I don't see a scenario where the Ravens beat the Bengals if Lamar Jackson isn't out there. And Lamar Jackson all but just ruled himself out on Twitter. He said he still has inflammation in his knee and he's not 100%. He's not able to move around and do the things that he's used to doing. So he's not going to play. There's no way the Ravens beat the Bengals without Lamar Jackson. So, it's kind of comfortable advancing Bills and Bengals players, but then of course they're going to play each other. And the loser, you're losing out on heavy. That game is the most as it pertains to fantasy contests. Assuming the Bills and the Bengals both win this weekend, they play each other in the divisional round. That will have the most ramifications for the rest of the fantasy playoffs. Because the loser of that game, there are no matter on whatever side, there are significant heavyweight fantasy options on in both lineups. Yeah, that it should be. There's a chance that game is the game of the postseason. There's a good chance that's the game of the postseason. Mike Rojo, what's going on, guys? Good to see y'all. And by the way, let me know what you guys want as far as merch, or if you guys want something different. That got away from me a little bit last week. I fell under the weather. I got sick last week. Still kind of getting over a cough. I mean, I'm all right, but yeah, you are still owed your prizes for the let's call it what it was, clusterfuck of week 17 and trying to figure all that stuff out. So let me know. But yeah, rookie coverage, of course, will be beginning here in the coming weeks. For now, I'm thinking I might do a playoff contest or two on Underdog tonight. I can record and post those results on the channel. Give people something to think about for anybody who's interested. For anybody who's interested in the playoff contests. Member League Dynasty startup. I'll have to talk to John. Which, by the way, before I keep rambling on, for anybody who maybe missed it, and I thought he might make a community post. I guess he didn't maybe get around to it. Week 17, championship week, was John's last stream. Probably for a while. He's undergoing back surgery, and the rehab process is going to be lengthy, and not sure when we're getting him back. Not sure when we're getting John back. So he kind of put it out there. Week 17 in our last stream that he's gonna be out for a little while. We're hopefully he can return soon. Sooner than later anyway, but he said he's just anticipating a lengthy rehab process with his back. That has been it. He's had back problems for a while, and I know it's something that he's always tried to kind of deal with regular doctor visits, but push came to shove basically, and he needs a major operation. So yeah, obviously it's all good if he understands he wasn't going to be able to catch everybody. I guess he didn't get a chance to do a community post. I thought he might, but I guess that didn't happen, and I didn't want to speak on it. I didn't. I'll tell people in the streams, but I didn't want to make his words mine on like a community post, you know. But it's all good. He knows, you know, he appreciates the hell out of the members. I know he wants to get back, especially for y'all, everybody in general. But yeah, we hopefully have him back sooner than later. But we're not going anywhere. I still got you guys. I'll be here throughout the off season. Videos will be back here shortly, including what I'm probably going to come back with at first. Again, I'll probably do some mitten drafts from Underdog, and you guys can see and hear my thought process for a playoff contest as it plays out real time. And those videos will be really short. It's a 10-round draft. Doesn't take very long to do. Excuse me. But yeah, so the rookie coverage is coming. That is absolutely on the way. But yeah, playoff contests first and foremost, playoff games to get through first and foremost. The quarterback, the value quarterback for me that's most interesting this weekend would be Justin Herbert. If you're playing the long game, because I think that, look, the Chargers could always charger, but Herbert is good enough to go on the road anywhere and carry his team to a win. Just kind of like overcome all of the issues that they deal with, whether it's coaching or, you know, the run defense is really bad. Herbert is good enough to go out there and win a game. So, and then again, the Chargers played Kansas City tough this year twice. So you never know. You never know. As far as Purdy, I mean, just in the contest that I've been doing, his ADP is higher, just because the expectation is San Francisco can, you know, advances farther. His ADP is 21. Herbert's is 32. You know, um, so just he's an interesting guy in any playoff long contest. You're playing with some fire, obviously. You expect the Chiefs to beat the Chargers or the Jaguars. But for the sake of this argument, I mean, let's say Herbert goes on the road and beats Jacksonville. It's an interesting matchup between the Chiefs and the Chargers in the playoffs in the second round. Because week 2 of the season in Arrowhead, but that was a field. Both games were a field goal. Both games were won. It was a 3-point win by Kansas City both times. You know, Chargers played them tough. Played them close. Herbert is a very interesting quarterback for me in these playoff long in DFS. You know, you're probably just going to want to pony up for either Allen or Burrow. Probably Allen. You probably just want to pony up on Allen. But Herbert is in a situation where on the road, he's going to be throwing the ball. It's not a great matchup, and he might not have Mike Williams, but he's you bet on the talent. I guess the other thing is Herbert's performances have been up and down and not great this year, but bet on the talent, and then if they can get to Kansas City, they lost 2 games this year against them by a total of 6 points. You know, so he's my interesting play. And then in the playoff long contest, Purdy's ADP is like 10 spots higher again, just because it's not just talent; it's how far do you expect these players to go. We expect San Francisco to advance probably twice. I think it's fair to put, you know, there's going to be a lot of people. Most projections are going to have the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. Whether they're on the road in Philly or they're hosting somebody else, like the Cowboys or the Bucks, probably not the Bucks. A lot of people expect San Francisco because, you know, there's such a gap in talent between the 49ers and the Seahawks rosters. Like Seattle, to say that they're just happy to be here is an understatement. And we all expected Seattle to be a 4-win team this year. So the 49ers, are a win now team. The Seahawks are a team that they were looking to the future starting week 1. They couldn't, this is gravy. The fact that they got the playoff game is gravy. So they advanced there, and then the 49ers play host to either the Vikings or the Giants. Actually, I guess they could play. I guess they could technically play anybody, I guess. The 49ers could play host to literally any other NFC team playing this weekend. But you like their odds against any of those teams. You like their odds against any of those teams, and that includes the Vikings, who are the team. The Vikings are the highest seeded team this weekend, where it's like, watch out. I don't know that they beat the Giants. I don't know that they beat the Giants. But San Francisco, you feel good about advancing twice, and therefore Purdy is is a basically a top 20 pick in the playoff long contests where that run throughout the duration of the playoffs. So I'll do a couple more of the contests and I'll post them up as videos on the channel, and you guys can see if anyone's interested in doing those contests as well. You can see the thought process there. But Rojo's got a question about Superflex Dynasty. Which quarterback tandem would I prefer between Hurts and Herbert or Allen and Prescott? Damn, man. Dak is the oldest one here. How old is Dak? He's not 30 yet, right? No way. He's 29. Okay. Actually, he will be 30 in July. I mean, Dak is a quarterback who should age just fine. Hurts took a leap this year that I think, I mean, it's damn near fair to I think it's almost fair to say Hurts took a 2020 Josh Allen leap. At least 80% of it. Hurts took at least an 80% of 2020 Josh Allen leap this year. He has now solidified himself as a top 3 quarterback any given week. So while I'd still have Allen ahead of Hurts, I'll take the longevity of Herbert over Dak as the what tips the scales for me. I think in Dynasty I'd rather have Hurts and Herbert. You just hope that Herbert, course corrects, because he was up and down this year. He was up and down this year. Herbert didn't perform to the level that people were hoping when they took him as the QB2 this year. Herbert was drafted as the QB2 in 2022. That most certainly did not play out. He still finished as a QB1, but it was a low end QB1. And there were a lot of peaks and valleys. There were one too many valleys, let's put it that way. That being said, we've seen enough Herbert has flashed more than enough talent to where you're believing in him long term. And he's at least 5 years younger than Dak. He's like 4.5 years younger than Dak. Yeah, I'll take Hurts and Herbert. Allen is obviously the best, but I'll take the combination of Hurts and Herbert. I know Walker's your guy. I mean, look, if you're playing DFS, Walker, the thing you can count on from Kenneth Walker this weekend is he will not be in that many lineups. People will be scared off by him. They'll be enticed by his price. His price is probably going to be pretty appealing, but they're going to be scared off by the matchup and the possibility that he gets phased out of the game. He's not going to be in a lot of in a lot of lineups this weekend. So that's the thing he has going for him. So if he can find the end zone on the road against the best run defense in the NFL, if he can find the end zone, he's gonna, whether it's a couple bucks or a couple $100, he will probably be the reason you get some form of a payout in any contest that you do. What are Walker's pick'em? Do we have let me check. We gotta have pick'ems at this point. Kenneth Walker's props. Here's Kenneth Walker's props, at least on Underdog Fantasy. 61 and a half rushing yards. That feels like a lot. I'm not going to lie. That feels like a lot. 16 and a half rushing attempts. That feels attainable. 16 and a half rushing attempts. That feels attainable. Get 62 rushing yards. That feels like a decent amount. 74 and a half combined rushing and receiving yards. I would probably take the Walker is I like Walker as a pass catcher, but he's not done it consistently enough yet where I'm like, yeah, hammer the over 12 and a half receiving yards. Well, that can be done on just one play. I don't know. I might look to avoid to do that. I might look to avoid that one. 11.45 fantasy points is Walker's prop. I would bet the under on that. Yeah, I mean, see, this is the thing. This is where your mind goes with Kenneth Walker this weekend. Like his prop for rushing yards is 61 and a half. That's a lot of yards on the road as an underdog against the best run defense in the NFL. 62 rushing yards is a lot. Actually, I guess the 12 and a half receiving yards is a little bit more palatable for that very reason. I'd probably take Walker's over for receiving yards, his under for rushing yards, and his under for fantasy points, which is 11.45. Yeah. Yeah, if Damar Hamlin gets a pick six in the Super Bowl, I don't know. I'll donate to the toy drive again. Like, I don't know. Whatever positive happens for that guy uh it is yeah, it is much needed and super well earned. Yeah. George, what's going on, George? Hopkins to Green Bay. I mean, that would make sense. Both, like, pair a guy at the end of his rope with a guy with a quarterback at the end of his rope. See what you can string together. The Aaron Rodgers speculation is gonna that's the other game that we get to play now. What's Aaron Rodgers gonna do? You know, I don't know how much you guys how much stock you put into things like at the end of the game, Jamison Williams asked Rodgers for his jersey. Rodgers says, "I got to hang on to this one." What does that mean? Is he done? Did he play his last snap for the Packers? If he did, then you got to send Hopkins somewhere else. Hopkins is not going to Green Bay uh, if Jordan Love is the guy. Although Love looked competent in a minimal small opportunity against the Eagles. Was that on Sunday night or Monday night? I think that was Monday night. This past year, Love looked competent. It was approaching garbage time, but the game wasn't over. The game wasn't over when Love got in there. That being said, uh, they're not trading assets for DeAndre Hopkins if this actually plays out. What happens with Aaron Rodgers? We don't know. He says he's got to hang on to that last jersey. Is that because it's his last time he's going to wear it? That's the last one that I'll ever wear. We don't know. We'll see. Rogers does weird things. There could be other random sentimental value to it that we don't even know about. Jaws, I don't know that anybody, yeah, nobody could have expected this from Geno. Hats off to Geno. Hats off to Geno Smith. I mean, he played his way into at least a few more years in the NFL. Let's call it that. Let's put it in that perspective. He's going to stick around for at least several more seasons in some capacity, and he's probably earned an opportunity as a short-term starter, if not with Seattle, somewhere else. Maybe the Jets bring him back. Is Geno a free agent, or will he be? Yeah, it's got to be right. Yeah, he will be an unrestricted free agent and free to sign anywhere after the Seahawks playoff run is over, which is probably going to be on Saturday. And at 33, he's absolutely got gas left in the tank. Yeah, good for Gino. Played well this year. Bro, would you give up for Hurts and Herbert? It's a good combo. Yeah, I'd rather have. I mean, Allen Dak is strong. There's no doubt. Allen by himself can elevate any Superflex combo into the this or that conversation just because it's Josh Allen. But Hurts and Herbert, man, it's a hell of a combo. Yeah, would you? I'm curious to know what you gave up for them. So you went the opposite route that a lot of people do with orphan teams. Feel like a lot of people take orphan teams and they blow them up, and they start from scratch. You said screw that, give me two really good young players now. Like a lot of I feel like the default move when you take over an orphan team is to hoard your picks. You said no, give me two top five QBs for the next 10 years. I like it. Uh, Bounce back or off the radar guys to trade for this offseason in Dynasty. Yeah, Deontay Johnson. um, oh man, I feel like everybody feels one way or another strongly about him. Um, I at one point thought Deontay Johnson was a top 10 receiver for dynasty purposes. That didn't play out this year, and maybe was a little ambitious at first. Um, but 140 targets, no touchdowns is a statistical anomaly. So I'm chasing the volume there, not necessarily the lack of scoring opportunities on an offense that was in transition this year. Still got 140 targets. His ADP is going to fall. His value is down right now. And whoever has him is probably not going to sell him cheap or sell low. So if you can't get a hold of him, for a discount right now, then look elsewhere. But I'll chase 140 targets when that is in fact a buy low scenario. Another one, this is dicey, and I'm not officially sure if he's worth it, but a guy who should cost pennies on the dollar right now is Trey Lance. Um, and you might be hard out on Trey Lance, and that's fine. I can't blame you, but the draft capital, whether it's with San Francisco or somebody else, the draft capital will keep Trey Lance in the league for 10 more years. Um, and you can probably in super flex leagues, talking obviously here, you can you could probably get him for less than a first round pick, or you can certainly ask. It's not it's not like some ridiculous request to ask for Trey Lance for a second round pick right now because Purdy looks really good, and it's now been 2 years and we've not seen anything from Lance. So whether it's with San Francisco or not, and Brock Purdy is forcing this conversation to be had, whether it actually plays out that way or not. But now's the time to try to buy Trey Lance. Maybe even if you don't really believe in him, because you should be able to get him for pennies on the dollar. Yeah. Deontay, Trey Lance. I mean, again, this one is probably going to be the asking price is still going to probably be too high because the expectations are still there. But Kyle Pitts, um, still billed as a generational prospect at the tight end position. He's not even 22 years old yet. Um, if you're willing to spend, you're probably not going to be able to get him for just a first round pick. But you can't ask the world for Kyle Pitts anymore. And we saw Marcus Mariota at his worst. The quarterback play can only go up, and it did when Desmond Ritter entered the lineup. Well, for 2 games anyway, as a third round rookie in a weak class. Um, the quarterback play will improve. Uh, it's not a concern anymore, but just reminding that Calvin Ridley's not coming back, right? He was traded to Jacksonville, so at least for now, and they're probably not going to sign any big free agents as a team that is still rebuilding and working through a youth movement. It's Drake London and Kyle Pitts. So you can get him for a discount. I would avoid, just to like kind of wrap this thought up, I would avoid probably the young running backs that got hurt, like Brees Hall and Javante Williams, um, because it's 50-50 whether they are themselves this year. Like it could be in 2023. You could be looking at a J.K. Dobbins situation where, like, yeah, they might come back. Like, maybe the news is positive that they're trending toward playing week 1 or week 2, but they're not themselves yet. They've been removed from game action for a while now, and a lot of their activities have been um, rehabbing an injury. So getting back into form takes some time. And then if you come back too fast and potentially re-aggravate anything, now you're looking at another in-season absence. Dobbins has now since come back. He's healthy now. It's great. He should be set for takeoff this year or in 2023, as long as Lamar is back. But I would caution trying to buy low on the young injured running backs. Just to kind of give a couple of answers on both sides of the coin. Um, so there you go. What's going on, Greg? Good to see you. What do the Jets do at quarterback? Well, I think it was Ian Rappaport put out a tweet that they're getting ready to spend big at the position, whatever that means. So your first thought is Derek Carr. That's like naturally where your thought process goes. Signed a 3-year extension last year. So I actually have. I'm not sure what the dead cap hit will be for Derek Carr, but his time with the Raiders is over. Oh, they have a okay. They have an out. They have an out where the dead cap hit goes down to 5.65. Okay, so he will be all right. So he will be released. Yeah, he will be released. Um, yeah, the Jets will be in the running for him, and that probably makes sense for them because that defense is ready to compete now. The defense is ready to compete now. So Derek Carr probably makes a lot of sense for them. Um, they could go the Jimmy Garoppolo route. Obviously, the 49ers connection with Robert Sala. That's defense, not offense, but there's still a team connection there. They could go that route. Um, do they sign? Are they the ones who signed Geno Smith on the cheap? Spend the money somewhere else, like a wide receiver. Maybe they bring in another wide receiver opposite Garrett Wilson. And do they try to rehabilitate Zach Wilson? Personally, I think that would be a waste of their time. So what I think they should do is Derek Carr. What they will do is that's another story. They could totally bring in, whether it's Garoppolo or Geno Smith at reduced dollars because Carr is going to cost more. Carr is going to cost the most. And if they're willing to spend big, then that's what they should do. But if that's a bluff, if they don't, and they go, you know, short term option in Geno Smith or Jimmy G and try to rehabilitate Zach Wilson, they could to try to save face on the fact that they spent the second overall pick on a guy who I don't think is it. Um, that would be a mistake. Personally, I think they should go after Derek Carr. And Zach Wilson can be a firm backup and get himself a reality check, if you want to call it that. That he has a lot of work to do. So yeah, Derek Carr would make the most sense for the Jets though, because that defense is ready to win now, and you could spend money on the offensive line, or you could draft the offensive line, spend on the quarterback. What is Aaron Rodgers' cap hit this year? I have to look that up right now. Oh yeah, okay, it's a big one. It's a really big one. That's a $99 million dead cap. I mean, if he, yeah, I guess it depends. Man, their potential out after next season is still a pretty big cap hit, almost 25 million. But 99 million, yeah, that's a pretty big cap hit. That's one of the biggest I've ever actually physically looked at with my own eyes. It might be the biggest cap hit I've ever personally seen. There might be a larger one. 99 million, that's nuts. That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing about the Packers. They don't really spend draft capital. They don't trade their draft picks. They trade for draft picks. Um, but it always feels like the Packers have operated. Not feels like it has been most seasons. The Packers operate from a homegrown perspective. It's one they've always taken. Maybe things change, like with the writing on the wall that like Rodgers is 40. You have maybe one or two seasons left. Like the time is now. Worry about your second round picks in 2025. Not that Hopkins will cost you that. Hopkins shouldn't even cost you a second round pick. It was Houston flubbed that situation, but they took a second round pick then at the time he was traded the first time. Now you should be able to get him for a late third. Probably not have to spend that much. You might be able to get him for like people, the NFL teams clutch their draft capital and eventually they cave for whatever they can get if a situation arises. Like it might just take a fourth round pick. If that offer is on the table and they don't take it, yeah, then I would have no faith in that general manager like moving forward. Let's put it that way. Sleep. Just moving on through. Kegs, what's going on, Kegs? So we had a situation develop this like toward the end of the season, um, where we just weren't available the way we wanted to be. We both ended up with new jobs, but like no new full time jobs that were both pretty time consuming and pretty demanding. Um, I was I was basically a one man band, like like pretty much like taking care of the entire World Cup for for the company, because I work in sports. I work in like sports editorial, so that was incredibly time consuming. Um, and the time difference meant that I was working all hours of the day. And then John got a new job as well that demanded like 10-hour days from him. We unfortunately were only available for pretty much live streams for the last couple months of the season. We talked about it. It's not where we wanted to end up with the channel. We do want to get back to doing more recorded content. But then on top of it, in case you missed it, John is actually out indefinitely. He's getting ready to undergo back surgery, so that's going to be a lengthy rehab process that he's preparing for. So we're probably not going to have him for a while. So time and resources, unfortunately, we're a bit we're kind of at a minimum. We don't intend to keep things that way. I'm still running. I'm trying to keep the lights on over here. Not trying to. I intend to. We're not going anywhere as a channel. It may look a little different now that John's kind of indefinitely away. Um, but that's kind of what happened. It was like real life demands plus there were some there were some developments with John's health that kind of ultimately held us back to just live streams. We don't intend that for that to be the case. We do want to get back to the level that we were at the first year and a half of doing this. I'm gonna have a couple of videos out soon, just kind of doing some playoff contests. You can get my thought process on what I end up doing in case you're interested. And then the rookie coverage will come back in the coming weeks once we get through the NFL playoffs and the focus kind of shifts more toward the combine and rookie analysis and things like that. So the channel was always top of mind. It's not like the want wasn't there. Um, the demand was difficult the second half of the season, unfortunately. Um, Not how we wanted things to play out, admittedly. But we were available still for live streams, and we intend to continue to be available for live streams, um, so that you can ask real time questions. You can still get connection face to face with us. Um, and I have videos for a couple of mittens that I'm going to do in the works on Underdog. Mittens are the playoff long tournaments on Underdog Fantasy. Um, those will be coming out. Those will be coming out as well. You got Hurts and AJ Brown for 5 first-round picks. I'm not even in a league where I can spend picks that far out in advance. Impressive that there's like no, or I don't know if there's a limit of at all in any way, shape, or form in that league on the amount of picks that you can spend or how far out you can spend them, but respect. Some people get all like weirded out by being able to just like send picks out like that far out in advance. So kudos to that league though. You traded a bunch of old heads. I love getting that. I mean, hey, the price is the price. You unloaded a bunch of old heads for a really good young quarterback. Loaded up. Nicely done. I like it. I mean, yeah, Josh, you could go after Ridley as well. Just mentioning Ridley, you could get him now while he's still kind of on the cheap. But now that the season is over, each day is another day closer to somebody being able to put him back into their starting lineup, right? So you got to act sooner than later. As far as Pittman, I don't think that Pittman's going to be a buy low because he still had, I know he was up and down, but he still had a pretty good season. And now the Colts have a really high pick. They're going to be in contention for a good young quarterback. If you can get him for a first round pick, great, do it. A late first would be most ideal. But something tells me that I don't think Pittman fits the definition of buy low right now. If I had to guess, because my perspective of him right now, if I have him, I'm not getting rid of him because I have hope for him moving forward. He's a building block moving forward, whether you're win now or rebuilding. He can go either way. But hey, if you can get him at a discount, then by all means do it because a quarterback upgrade is coming. The Colts have the fourth pick, I think. Yeah, they have the fourth pick. So, um, and two teams ahead of them don't need quarterbacks. So they're going to be in position to get either CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. They still may have to trade up though, because they have the Seahawks hot on their heels at 5. And Vegas at 7 is going to be looking to get a quarterback. Um, there are several teams in the back half of the top 10, Atlanta, Carolina, Vegas, that are going to be looking for a quarterback. So, and there's 2 good ones this year. How we feel about Rashad Bateman? Kind of hinges on Lamar, doesn't it? And even if the more I think, I do think Lamar comes back to Baltimore. I know there's a lot of people speculating right now that Lamar has taken his last snap with the Ravens. I mean, I guess it depends on how he feels the how is the organization has been treating him in this rehab process, in this injury recovery process. Does he feel like if he feels like they've been in his corner, he's going to resign. If he feels like he's on an island right now, then yeah, sure, he walks. I guess that's a conversation, that's a closed door situation that we don't really know about. So Bateman kind of hinges on Lamar Jackson, but even then, he was way more, even in the games he was healthy this year, he was way more boom bust than you wanted him, than you wanted your 5th round pick, maybe your 4th round pick in redraft this year anyway, to be. And he was certainly an expensive piece in dynasty startups this year. I mean, he was really hot and cold. He was really hot and cold. And there's a good amount of that has to do with what is currently kind of a vanilla Ravens offense. Like, we know what they're going to do. They've been doing the same thing for the past 3 years. Since Lamar Jackson's MVP campaign, in what was that, 2019? Their offense has not changed. And I really liked Greg Roman for those first couple of years. I thought Lamar's potential was absolutely maximized, but they've not added any new wrinkles to that offense. It's the same offense that they've run 4 years ago. So honestly, if Lamar Jackson is back, and let's say I don't know if this is going to happen or not, but if the Ravens made the playoffs, but in a vacuum, objectively, they had a good season. If they bring Greg Roman back, and that offense is once again the same thing that it was in 2022 and 2021 and 2020 and 2019, I guess I'll draft Mark Andrews at a discount. There's another guy, Jaws. If you're still listening, like Mark Andrews might be a bit of a discount relative to previous cost, relative to what he cost this time last year. I'll take a shot on the Mark Andrews slide, but he's the number one option in this passing game when everything is clicking. I don't know if I want the second option week to week in this offense. Rashad Bateman is talented, but he has a certain ceiling playing in a Greg Roman offense. I have some concerns about Rashad Bateman. I do. When did he go down? I mean, he missed most of the season. Just looking up. When did Bateman go down? Was it like week 7 or so? I think he got hurt week 4. He missed weeks 5 and week 6. Then he went, wait, hurt week 7 or played week 7, but then I think he kind of re-aggravated it, and then that's when he was done for the year. So by week 8, he was done for the season. So the sample size is small, but damn man, he had to come through on limited opportunities. I mean, his best game, he had 7 targets, and his high water mark was 7 targets. I don't know. I might look to avoid Bateman might be a fade. If all things are the same this year, if all things are the same for the Ravens going into 2023, Bateman's probably going to be a fade for me. Kareem Hunt, at this point, man, I wouldn't touch. How old is he? He's going to be like 28. No, he doesn't have that much recent wear and tear on him. He's an older running back. I mean, I don't know. He's not going to be I don't think at this point he's going to be a feature back somewhere. He might have like one more, like maybe he has like a Melvin Gordon year, like one more of those. Maybe he has, or not this year's Melvin Gordon, but like he went to Denver. He was good for like 2 more seasons, but it was in a committee. I don't know. I mean, I guess for a 4th round pick, you're not, you're giving up an extreme dart throw, like a very small percentage lottery ticket of hitting. I don't know, man. Kareem Hunt didn't do anything this year though. Like he had a really good week 1, and then like did he score more than he had a good week 1, and then after that, I don't know if he score more than like 12 or 13 half PPR points in any others, like, and if he did, it didn't happen more than once or twice. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know about Kareem Hunt, man. He was so bad this year. I don't know if I can get behind Kareem Hunt, man. I don't know if I can get behind Kareem Hunt. Like, 13 for 58, 12 for 47, 10 for 49. I mean, these are decent. These are decent averages, but he didn't score. He scored no touchdowns this year. Not literally zero, but he had like one, two, three. He had four touchdowns on the season, and two of them came in the first week. Yeah. Outside of week one, his best game of the season was when he ran for 11 for 47 and a touchdown and caught three balls for 10 yards. It's like a 13, 14-ish point week. Nah, I don't. Yeah, I don't want Kareem Hunt. I'm good on Kareem Hunt. I'd be unloading. I would be unloading, not acquiring. Or if you don't have him, don't acquire him. If you have him, yeah, hope that a situation develops where before the draft a team signs him and he looks like he's going to be the guy, and then flip him because then they're going to draft a running back. And yeah, older running backs can still contribute. It's so hit or miss though. It's so random. Like the right opportunity has to emerge, and it doesn't always. It doesn't always happen that way. Yeah, I guess I mean, yeah, if you can get him for pennies, I guess that's one thing. I'm not super crazy about him. Not super gun ho about him. As far as the Raiders, I mean, if they're moving on from Derek Carr, they should move on from everybody except for, I guess, Max Crosby. And that includes Josh Jacobs. If you're gonna let if you're gonna cut Derek Carr, then you might as well completely start over and let Jacobs walk. Because what's the general consensus on like a rebuild timeline? It's a couple years, right? Especially in the AFC West when you got to deal with Patrick Mahomes. You're looking at like a 3 year. You got to look at like 2 or 3 years out if you're the Raiders right now. So by the time that happens, Jacobs is 27, 28 years old and near the end. You might as well save your money. Try to spend on a still somewhat young free agent at a more impactful position somewhere else, and try to fill one of those holes sooner than it otherwise would if you spent all your money to keep a 25-year-old running back on a bad team. You know, um, so to that point, if they do that, then Zamir White should get some decent run, should get a decent opportunity because the Raiders are going to have lots of draft capital or they're going to have lots of needs that are going to need to be addressed elsewhere other than running back. So you took Zamir White in the fourth round last year. Yeah, see what he can do. Let Amir Abdullah be the change of pace guy. You could bring in some other random, or that you still have Brandon Bolden. He can be like he's mainly a special teamer, but he can be your third random dude who gets in there as mixes things up a little bit, changes the pace up a little bit, spells Zamir White. Maybe you bring in a fourth guy, either super cheap or super late draft pick, um, and you just kind of have a ragtag committee. But that's what I do. If I'm a rebuilding team, that is exactly what I want my backfield to be. An interesting young player who I drafted maybe in the third or fourth round, like maybe a veteran change of pace guy, and then a couple dudes where it's either an undrafted free agent or a younger free agent that's like that costs you next to nothing to roster. Have that collection of guys and just kind of get yourself through the season. That's what I would do. So yeah, the Raiders should give Zamir White an opportunity next year. The worst thing that happens is that a second year running back, and again, we all know this, running backs are like cars, right? They depreciate in value. They don't appreciate in value. So Zamir White's best years, his most productive years are going to be next year and the year after that, and maybe the year after that. Most running backs, they're like a car. Once you drive it off the lot, the value goes down. So like they should use him now. See what he can do. So he's worth a speculative look. But see, he's going to be difficult to acquire in Dynasty for more than you're going to want to give up because somebody else, whoever has him, is holding out hope that Jacobs walks. You know, would I trade Ridley and Najee for the 102? Feels like a lot. I would need to know that Bijan is there. Like, is he if you think he's bluffing, if you think he could be bluffing, I would maybe wait. But if you feel pretty confident that he's going to actually take Bryce Young, then yeah, I think I would do that. Iron. I think the more yeah, I think I would do that. If I know Bijan's going to be there, if I know Bijan's going to be there, then yes, I would do the trade. I would. I would do that. If I know for a fact Bijan is going to be there, I would do the trade. But I need to have that assurance first. We're at the end of the chat. Just a real quick wrap up on some thoughts for the playoffs this week. And then I'm going to go ahead and shut it down for the evening. Again, I'm going to post a couple of videos of some of the underdog playoff contests that I do. So y'all can check that out if you are so inclined or interested. Maybe you're playing similar contests, just want to see a thought process or hear one play out. I'll have videos up for that. But y'all already know, like the 49ers should handle the Seahawks this weekend. The Saturday night game between the Jaguars and Chargers could be solid. That one could be good. And you got two good young quarterbacks in that game. That's an interesting matchup. I might be going out on a limb a little bit here, but I hate to go against my guy Dougie P. And Jacksonville looks like they're on a little bit of they got a little momentum here, but I would take Herbert to go out there and win that game. Like I would put my money on Herbert going out there and stealing that game for the Chargers on the road, even though he hasn't been great this year. The Bills are going to hammer the Dolphins. Tyreek Hill should be fine for a 1 week, like a 1 week potential smash spot for a season long contest, but you're not drafting him sooner than I wouldn't take him before the 7th round. It's like of a 10 round playoff draft. The Dolphins are not advancing. They're not beating the Bills. And then stacking Allen with whatever Bills you can get, smart play. Although his ceiling could be a little capped, the Bills may not have to score that much to take care of the Dolphins. The Dolphins couldn't get anything going on offense against the Jets at home. I don't know how they're going to get anything going on offense against the Bills in Orchard Park in the playoffs. Vikings and Giants, that's my upset pick of the weekend. I think the Giants are going to upset the Vikings, so I would caution people who are looking at at Viking stacks for their fantasy playoffs, for their fantasy long playoff contests. Justin Jefferson is obviously great enough to do his thing, but I think the Vikings are a little smoke and mirrors. The Giants would be my upset pick this weekend. For the night contest, the Bengals again should handle the Ravens without Lamar Jackson. It makes it awfully tough to trust guys like Mark Andrews and J.K. Dobbins in what is probably going to be a one and done scenario. Expect the Bengals to handle their business and probably set up what could be the playoff game of the playoffs when the Bengals and Bills face off. And then for the Monday night game between the Bucks and the Cowboys are the trendy pick to win the game, which is fair. The Bucks look like a shell of themselves. Brady himself doesn't, but the team itself as a whole does. So it's fair to expect the Cowboys to go in there and win that game. But they have a tough potential, avenue if that happens. Because if the Giants are able to upset the Vikings, then the Cowboys got to play the 49ers on the road. If the Vikings handle their business, then the Cowboys got to play the Eagles. It's a tough road for Dallas, no matter how you slice it. And that's going to be 2 straight road games, and 3 straight if you include the season finale against Washington. It's a lot of time on the road. That game is a pick 'em as far as I'm concerned. Um, it's going to be tough to trust the running backs in that game. It's 2 good run defenses. Fournette, Zeke. Pollard is going to probably be fine just as a dynamic playmaker, but Fournette, Rashad White, Ezekiel Elliott, I wouldn't be expecting a ton from any of those guys. It's going to be Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and CeeDee Lamb are your heavy hitters for those games. It's a true pick 'em. The Cowboys have undoubtedly more talent, but they've also wilted in big games in big situations over the past few seasons. So we'll see. Should be a really good Monday night. Scott, appreciate you dropping in. Congratulations on winning the ring. That's awesome. Happy to see it. Off-season coverage will continue on this channel of the incoming rookies. We'll do rookie analysis here, so you can stay tuned for that. And I'll make sure to be dropping in during the NFL playoffs. So y'all, you already know. Took a like a 10-day hiatus or a little bit of R&R after the season to kind of, or after championship week to kind of catch my breath. But we'll be back in some capacity next week as well to talk shop on the fantasy on any fantasy contest you're doing and the NFL playoffs. And you can be on the lookout for some shorter videos coming up here where I'll do some playoff contests, and you can see how that plays out as well. That's going to do it for me for tonight. Thanks everybody for coming in and chilling, talking shop. We're not going anywhere just because the fantasy season is over. You can continue to stay tuned, and Facemask will have coverage in some way, shape, or form on the playoffs and the incoming rookie class. Everybody have a great night. Everybody enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the playoff games. I'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.